In this video, we're actually going to take a look at the ensemble and the dynamics section together. You'll already be familiar with the dynamics section throughout the other ones, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. Essentially, the further you turn this wheel up, the more instruments play at one time when you play the notes. More instruments equates to more volume. You have attack, so you can have things come in a bit smoother. Let's try that with a sustain. Oh, got to turn the arpeggio off. So it swells in a little bit more. Release is really how quickly the instruments come off, but also part of the reverb in the room. Notice when I come off, it's almost immediate, and it does just feel a little unnatural, so just be careful if you decide to pull that release down. Tightness is essentially the attack of the sound, so how quickly that woodwind comes in straight away. It's similar to the attack, but it's the push coming from the players. To be honest, the tighter it is, the more unnatural it sounds again, so just be careful. There's almost a clicking when it comes in. Now, motion, if you remember from the brass video, is the amount of pitch modulation that occurs when the instrument is being held down. So let's play some more sustained sounds like this. You can hear a sort of fluttering or movement from the players themselves. Let's set that back to default. Now let's go to ensemble. Very similar to the brass section, as you might already know, or might not. Different woodwind instruments provide us with different frequency ranges. That's why they're also key to the orchestra or the woodwind section. We've got bass winds, which I imagine what they mean by bass winds are larger instruments such as tubas. Then we have bassoons, clarinets, oboes, and flutes. Notice how they move up the octave range, and that's because of the range that they can play in, the frequency range that they can play in. So the bass winds are all the way even lower than that. Here we go. Got an instrument from the bass wind there. Bassoon, move up an octave. We're playing clarinets now, that's the lowest the clarinet will go, is to that D. And then the flutes and oboes definitely have a big crossover, as you can see here. The flutes are the instrument that go the highest. That might even potentially be some piccolos up there. Unfortunately, you cannot change this frequency range, and that's just because of how the instruments are built. But sometimes less control is better, and you have to limit yourself to what you can do. Otherwise, things can start to sound a little bit unnatural if you start playing with their designated frequency range. You can, of course, turn these individual instruments on or off, or you can rebalance their volumes using this fader, so if you want more or less of one instrument. This can also be controlled, of course, when recording via velocity. So the harder you play the notes, the higher the velocity, the louder the instrument will come out. And I suggest doing that way rather than messing around too much with these mixers, although they can be useful. So let me just set them up as I would like them in my performance. Here is a bit of a mess around that I just put in order to be able to play each part of the ensemble and show you how it would all sound together as one. Once it's playing, we can go ahead and start editing these different volumes in the mixer. Now, individual volumes of notes can definitely be controlled via the velocity. There's one note particularly here in the end that I think could do with being taken down in volume. So let's just have a listen to that again. this one in particular right here. So let's just select it quickly, pull the volume nice and low. And one thing I want to add as well, now that I've got the shape that I wanted more of those low instruments, less of those high ones, which are just piercing through a bit more, I'm going to adjust the modulation so that we increase and decrease the dynamic. Let me come out of the ensemble view, go back to performance, and what I'm controlling is this. This is controlled via the modulation wheel, so you can see it come up and down like so. I'm just going to bring it up throughout these sections, maybe just down ever so slightly here, up a little bit higher, down again just at the end of this phrase here, up and building continuously throughout here. So let's have a listen and see how that sounds. Doesn't that just add the magic that that performance deserves?